Here we are back with the first Casual Friday in a while, and today I want to talk about a series of unfortunate events. When I teach my children's literature courses, I teach the first book in this series by Lemony Snicket, and I like to talk a lot about the satire and the parody of children's literature in general that those books do. But that's not what I'm doing today. I'm talking about the fifth book in the series, which is the Austere Academy. There it is. Because I want to talk about one particular incident that I think is really relevant and perhaps instructive in the current social, political climate. And that's a scene early on in the novel when the three Baudelaire orphans, whose story we've been following through these novels, their parents died and the evil Count Olaf is trying to kidnap them, and he puts on all these disguises to try and entrap them and fool the other adults. And the running conceit of this series is that adults are all either complete idiots or completely evil. And children, particularly the three Baudelaire orphans, Sunny, Violet, and Klaus, they're clever beyond their years. Even the baby, in her babbling nonsense, is always interpreted by her siblings as meaning all kinds of deep and thoughtful things, or just really useful things in the moment. So these are parodies of children in children's novels who are always solving all the problems that adults can't solve, and they're approaching problems and approaching relationships with a lot more maturity than the adults of their world, and even the adults of the real world. Which brings me to the scene, the interaction I want to talk about today, and that's when the three Baudelaire orphans meet the Quagmire triplets for the first time. They're at this horrible boarding school. The three siblings, the three orphans, they meet two twins, two identical-looking siblings, and there's an awkward interaction where the Baudelaires refer to these two other kids as twins, and there's an awkward pause, and the boy and the girl explain. Their names are Isadora and Duncan. They explain that they are not twins, and they take a lot of offense at being called twins, when in fact they are triplets. And this really confuses the Baudelaires because they see only two identical-looking siblings. And the triplets have to explain that the third member of the triplets died very young, so they like to be called triplets in order to honor the memory of their lost sibling. And, any adult in this book would, and perhaps in the real world, might approach this and say, well, we can't call you triplets. There's only two of you. It's very confusing. You're going to have to identify yourselves in a much more relatable way, in a way that other people are going to understand. And they'll probably try to talk down the self-identification of these triplets. But the Baudelaire orphans are not like that. They're patient and understanding, and kind and good. So immediately they're apologetic for identifying the triplets as twins. And the triplets say, well, you couldn't have known, but thank you for understanding. And from that moment on, the Quagmire's triplets are always referred to as triplets, even though there's only two of them. And later on in the book, I think one of the mean adults, hears them called triplets and says they're not triplets, there's only two of them. And so to me, this makes me think of all kinds of issues, identity politics, the way it's described. But really, the reality is it's people presenting themselves, their self-understanding, their entire identity to the world, and being shot down by people who don't agree that this identity exists, or they don't believe that this person shares this identity. And this book really clearly is saying, well, take what people say to you, be patient, be understanding, and understand their perspective. It's not someone else's place to say who somebody else is. It's for the self to present the self to the world. So you can think about this in terms of course, trans rights. A person is who they say they are. Accept that, right? And that's something this book is saying, that if somebody presents themselves as a man, as a woman, as non-binary, accept that. There's no other appropriate response. And the Baudelaire orphans get that. They listen to the explanation of why these are triplets, and they say, yeah, makes perfect sense. You're triplets. Let's move forward. Let's be friends. There's no drama. There's no conflict. Just acceptance. And that's really an amazing thing coming out of this book. And also, if you think about this really in broader terms, or in other terms, I should say, Just think about responses to the Black Lives Matters movement, where you can come at this and say, oh, what about all lives matters, and what about this, what about that? But when you do that, you're not listening, right? You're trying to take control of the conversation instead of listening to the people who are presenting you, real problems, real issues, real sense of what it means to be Black in America, and outside America too. And the appropriate response is to listen, to accept, to understand, to learn, and then to move forward from there, from a position of acceptance and cooperation. It's a particularly awkward time, particularly for people who get themselves out there on social media, who present videos. Do you be an opportunist about this, as some people have been, and try to, as a lot of companies are doing, they issue statements saying, we support Black Lives Matters. It's important that they do, but are they doing this from a position of, we need to retain our customer base and this is politic? Or are they doing this from a real sense of social responsibility, and understanding, and a desire to change? So you have someone like me who's presenting these videos, white, obviously. It's not my position to explain what it means to be Black in America, to explain Black Lives Matters. There are plenty of people out there who have lived it, who have lived these experiences, and lived that identity, who can tell you all about it. And my role is to listen and learn. And that's the role the Baudelaire orphans take in this novel. They don't explain who the Quagmires are. The Quagmires could do it for themselves. They explain why they're triplets. They do it quite well, and in a way that the Baudelaires readily accept. And you think about children's literature as being instructive for kids, teach them how to navigate the world. I think this is really quite an important moment in the series of unfortunate events where you see just how not only good and intelligent the Baudelaires are, but how progressive, I guess you could say, their politics are, that they're really there to listen and learn from others as much as possible, and to accept diversity. No, that's wishy-washy. To accept and to understand other people's traumas, other people's sufferings. The Baudelaires themselves have had traumas. It's the whole point of the novels. Their story is nothing but trauma. And because of that, they're able to understand someone else's trauma, even if it's different than theirs, and they're able to say, yeah, I get it.